Romeo and Juliet Space Edition by Nathaniel Reed. Once upon a time, there were two space stations, the Montague and the Capulet. They had a space race to the faraway planet of V3N1C3. Because of that, they absolutely hated each other. They would destroy each other, but they had a rule to not shoot down their stations. Their rivalry went back 167 Earth years. Lights of all colours shot through the windows of the Capulet station. Loud music was lost to the desolate vacuum of space. The melodies were left in the dark abyss. "A birthday," Mercutio muttered. "Honestly, do they want us to shoot them down? Disgusting." Romeo sighed. He had a plan, but he had to get Mercutio away from the window. He'd been sitting there all day, staring at the flashing lights. He thought he was jealous. To hide his envy, he had been making points about how bad they were all day. To hide how lonely he felt out here. "You should eat." Mercutio spun to face him. "You don't want to starve just because of how much you hated a space station," Romeo said. "Maybe some tea as well." Mercutio shrugged and turned back to the window. Romeo sighed again and walked into the kitchen area to fetch a packet of food. Chicken and lime-flavoured curry paste. "That'll do," he thought. He walked back to the other room and set it down on the table. "There you go. Now eat. Please." "Okay." Romeo dashed out of the room and snuck into the hangar. He dived into pod 19 and flicked it on. He put on the headphones. "Initiating launch sequence." He took a breath. It felt like he was falling down a hole before he hit the bottom as the engines kicked in. "Here I go." He pulled back the throttle and shot forwards. The front of the pod was transparent, so he looked at his target. The docking area was underneath, so he'd have to come up from below. He dropped the spaceship down and activated the PING mechanism. It didn't stand for anything, just a great name for something that makes you go forwards very quickly. He pulled back the controls and started to travel upwards while still having the PING on. He switched it off as he slid to a halt. No alarms. That's a good start. He stepped out, completely undetected. Perfect. He walked along a corridor and peered through a door. A girl was talking to someone that looked like an older version of herself, her mother. He slipped closer and her mother said, "Okay then, Juliet. I'll leave you then. Make sure to join us once you are ready." She turned and started towards him. "Oh no," he sprinted round the corner. "Please don't come this way." To his relief, she carried on straight. Juliet, beautiful. He couldn't get her face out of his mind. He ran back to her door, and she walked out. "Goodness, you made me jump. What are you doing around here?" Just exploring the areas I haven't been before." "I don't believe I've seen you before. You look very nice," she smiled. "Why, thank you. So do you, lovely lady. Juliet, isn't it?" "Yes. Do you want to go to the party together?" "Sure, but I'm a bit lost. I've never been to this part before. Please, can you lead the way?" "Okay, follow me." "This is great, but what have I done? I came here to spy for information." "Here we are," Juliet remarked. "But first, what's your name?" "My name is Intruder Alert, Unidentified Flying Object Located in the Hold." Sirens boomed out the speakers and red lights flashed. Romeo put his hands on Juliet's shoulders and kissed her cheek. "My name is Romeo. I'm from the Montague ship," he said hurriedly. But Romeo cut her off. "It's fine. We can be together," he shouted and pushed through the crowd. He followed his path back to the hold and dived into his pod as the guards started to surround him. He turned the ship. How am I ever going to get out of this one? He slammed his hand down on the PING button and shot off the deck. He flew back to Montague with no further problems. He got off the pod and ran to his room. A few days later, a meeting letter came through. "Hello, crew of Montague. I would like to arrange a meeting. We will launch the pod between our ships and we will talk. Your dear friends, the crew of Capulet." "I will go," Mercutio shouted. Romeo too, and obviously father. And so they did. The system was set up from Capulet and sent out between the stations. Everything went fine until the end of the meeting. Tybalt, Juliet's cousin, got out a gun, spun around and shot Mercutio. His body collapsed. Romeo froze before slamming a button on the wall. The docking pad dropped and Tybalt was sucked off before Romeo let go and the pod closed up again. Everything had happened in a few seconds. Romeo fell to his knees. What have I done? He cried. Get away from this place, his father yelled. Get away from us! Get out! Romeo was sent in a small pod away from the cruise to a nearby planet and put into orbit. All he had was a bed, a kitchen, and a toilet. Please help me, Uncle, said Juliet. With what, darling? I'm in love. And he's from Montague. Oh. He's been exiled. Oh. I want to see him again. I may have an idea. What? Death. He paused. You should fake your death. How? I have a mixture that will completely shut down your system for a brief amount of time. The neuromorphine toxin. And so it went. Juliet took the drug and got sent off in a funeral pod. Romeo looked out his window and sighed before his alarm went off. Incoming funeral pod, please pay your respects. What? Romeo muttered. What? He looked out the window at the incoming craft. Juliet's face stared out the window at him, pale as a corpse. She was a corpse. She was dead. He turned to the wall, one wish in mind. He hit the airlock button and jumped out. She woke up. Romeo! She yelled. But he never heard. His life was leaving him. She turned, hit her airlock button and jumped out as well, just as the pod revolved and hit her gently in the wrong direction. They drifted apart, never to see each other again, just as the world went black for Romeo.